All right, welcome to today's episode of the Future Education Podcast. We'll be talking with our esteemed guest for the day, Jason Komosa. He is a Chicago-based entrepreneur and community builder, known for helping tech founders and leaders connect to purpose, direction, and grounded identity. He was an early team member during the rapid global scale of Groupon, where he gained firsthand experience in how high growth operations and culture manifest. After years in tech and venture environments, Jason shifted his focus toward optimizing tech sales through psychology, as well as advising early stage startups. He works where personal development meets entrepreneurship, helping leaders build healthy profits through healthy people and organizations. Jason, welcome to the Future Education Podcast.
Well, first of all, thank you for that wonderful introduction, and thank you for having me on. I'm so excited to be on. The viewers don't know, but you and I met a couple weeks ago, and we immediately hit it off energetically. We are like-minded, and I'm so stoked to have this conversation with you, man.
Absolutely. And I believe the event was it was sponsored by Long Jump. Were there other sponsors? It was like a VC founder meetup or something?
It might have been. So yeah, it might have been a long jump. I'm involved with long jump, but I don't actually remember which one it was. But regardless of what it was, the bottom line is this is what came out of it, and that's what matters. So again, I appreciate you, brother.
Awesome. One of the things that we immediately connected on was the need for the change in education, right? Which is clearly a
Yeah.
theme of this podcast. You have a couple of young children. I've got a young child. A lot of folks like us who others might consider well-established or intelligent are still wondering what the heck are we going to do to educate our children? How does that look? And you've had your own experiences with education. Some of
Yeah.
it that's worked and some of it hasn't. So maybe you could just give a
Yeah.
quick summary of your perspective right now from the standpoint of what we described in your bio on education now and into the future.
Well, so I believe right now what needs to happen is that we need to equip our children that we need to equip them with materials, resources to prepare them for the future, for their future being, especially with things like AI. I believe that the traditional school education system, when I went through it, don't get me wrong, I learned and it was great, but I also felt at the same time there were a lot of things that they failed me on, that I was not educated on, that I did not receive information from, and therefore I had to seek outside counsel, like my mom or like friends. So some of these taboo subjects, like money, for example, like we just weren't taught it because it was like a hush hush type thing. So I believe it has to be a lot more transparent, a lot more vulnerable. We need to again prepare our children for. I was painted as a young kid, like this picture of like what money looks like. And like, again, we need to give the kids the tools and resources. So from an early age, they can kind of sculpt their brain when it comes to how to learn better, how to apply what they learn. Because again, a lot of the stuff, if you don't learn it, if you don't teach me it, I can't apply it.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. I just recorded another session here. I think it was just yesterday. And this topic came up of financial literacy and how glaringly absent it is from K through 12 all the way through the graduating graduates.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing there for the most part,
Right.
unless you're in a business school, I suppose. But maybe even in a business school,
Correct.
you might not get the nuts and bolts, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I think I mentioned this to you, but like I vividly remember in my high school economics class, which is maybe sophomore, junior year, this is like early 2000s. We had like 1 or 2 days topics on how to write a check and like balance a checkbook. And that was it. There was nothing about taxes or W-2s or 1099s or 401ks. It was just like, this is what the state mandates. So this is what we're going to give you. And then that's that. So again, it was very underwhelming. And as I mentioned a minute ago, and I don't know about you or the viewers or listeners, but a lot of people that I find my age, I'm 41, most of the financial literacy they received was from, again, their mom, their dad, or their grandpa or whoever, not in a formalized kind of education classroom like art or science, which I believe it should be.
I I think I'm very passionate about this topic, and maybe we'll come back to it in a minute because I want to shift a little bit just more to your general educational journey. Because
Right.
you did things the traditional route. You ended up, I think, at UFC, University of Chicago. Was it business school or?
So the story is, and this is the story is I graduated with a degree in industrial organizational psychology and marketing from DePaul undergrad. My
Okay.
plan was to go to the University of Chicago to get a doctorate in psychology.
Okay.
And in my intuition, like I did this out of fear. I was choosing to go to school, not because I really wanted to, not because it was passion of mine, but because I felt like I had no other option. And so I enrolled. First of all, I didn't think I'd get in. I got in, and then I enrolled. And then it's like at the same exact time, the universe just provides me with this. I read about the small company in Chicago that's doing something really cool with marketing advertising, something that is quite literally the first marketing and advertising platform in the world that does not require upfront money. You don't have to pay. So that to me was like a moment of, I was like, I'm going to drop out. And the reason I'm going to leave is because in my mind, I'm thinking the worst case scenario, this doesn't work out. This startup doesn't work out. I can go back to school in a year.
Mhm.
I was 24. So I dropped out, right? Or I left the school and like people are like, well, again, this is 2008, 2009. So there wasn't no tech. The only tech here was Grubhub. So people are like, what are you doing? You're leaving like this prestigious school to go to this small startup. And then 4 years later, we IPO'd for $16 billion. So the idea is like trusting my intuition, I think that was one of the most critical moments in my life where it's like the logical brain is saying, do this, get your doctorate, do what the safe plan is. But my intuition says, Jason, you got to do this. If you don't do this, you're going to regret it. Even if it fails, like that's how powerful and of a pull it was. If it fails, great. I gave it a shot. I can come back to school.
Yeah, that's a powerful moment. And I think it speaks to, again, we had our brief conversation previously about education and what it could be like. Certainly, not to be too harsh, education is providing this safety net, right? Where if you don't know what you're going to do, or you don't have some ambitious idea, or you're kind of confused and you need some training, great, it's there. You can sit, you can do some classes, you can simmer, you can learn some things. And at the same time, it's a bit alarming sometimes at how people are exiting the system, right? Because they're going, oh, this doesn't feel right, or like, I feel like I'm getting the wrong advice, or I'm getting the right. It's like it's too safe, or maybe the information's wrong, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, yeah. Again, it's that in my perception, it's oftentimes, especially as younger kids, you got to think the logical brain is trying to protect us. They're trying to keep us safe. And so at the same time, we have intuition, which is our second brain that really is kind of, they're connected. They're one and the same. And so again, if it feels right, most likely it is. Not always, but most likely in your intuition, if something feels right, it's right. And most likely if something does not feel right in your intuition, regardless of employment or dating, relationship, whatever, it's most likely not right. Giving the kids the access to not to segment, but I believe it would be another huge educational benefit to have teachers give especially younger kids, high school kids, let them tell them things like, it's okay not to have things figured out. It's okay not to know what you're going to do, or if you don't have a major, like that's okay. These kids are under so much pressure already from parents and society and their peers to have the emotional space and clarity to say, you know what, like we know this is hard for you as students. And so, you know what, let's give yourself some grace and compassion and again, have it be okay. And the cognitive reframe of like, I got to get it figured out and I gotta know what I'm doing and what I'm doing, all these plans to like, it's okay to have a plan or goal, but it's also okay not to necessarily know the right action you're going to take. That's okay. So I
Mm.
think again, emotionally that could help kids.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is probably where we align as well, to put a pin in it, is sometimes that's exactly where you need to be, where you don't know exactly the next step. It means you're sort of at the edge of your capacity. You're exploring some domain that's, made specifically for you in this life, that we're all trying to find our way through. in essence, pushing our boundaries to their capacity is sometimes the most fulfilling and appropriate things to do. I want to talk to you about your alternate education, right? So you got the education of Groupon and startup, right? And that was its
Yeah.
own thing, there probably weren't classes. Maybe there were training sessions. Maybe somebody sat down with you and said, hey, here's how we do this call, and here's this and this and this. Maybe there was a lot of, I don't know, you go figure it out. Here's the goal, figure out how to make it happen. I'd like to hear what that experience was like, pretending it was almost like an academic experience. Is that, can
Yeah.
you go there?
And here, yes, of course. And I got goosebumps. You know, what's funny is that I'll never forget one of my dear mentors, Sean Burkeson. He was my first boss at Groupon. And he said, Jason, you're getting a double MBA right now. You're not, it's not on paper. You're not going to get a degree, but what you are doing in this current ecosystem, I was like the 70 something employee. So when I started, I was 70 something. And when I left, it was 15,000. So the idea of just having Sean as an asset and a resource and basically just saying, figure it out. Like, it was literally, you're the CEO. So so basically the way that Groupon first started was you had cities, you were assigned a city, and your job was to basically be the CEO of that city. You have to sign the deals. You have to figure out when they're going to run. What are the deal terms? We went from when we got hired, like we were doing all these things as individuals. When I left, like you would have 7 or 8 different departments doing what we were doing as one person. So it was a true entrepreneur, figure it out. Go, here's the base, go figure it out. We're going to help you, but you got to make it work. And so it was very empowering because I was given essentially a business to run without again, unknowingly, I was given a business to start. Here's a business I need you to start. It was funded through Groupon, but my business was building the Midwest market. And then I ultimately ended up moving up to the national sales team and helping to sell and build the national sales team.
Yeah. Yeah. What I'm noticing here is one of the things that I'm passionate about is a bit of an apprenticeship model. And what can be very strong about the apprenticeship model is the framework that you mentioned. You're on your own. But you're not on your own. We're here to help. We're the ones telling you to be on your own. If something falls apart, okay, we're going to come in. We may not have that answer, but we're here to come in and help shape things and reframe things, right? So you felt like you were on your own, but by default, we were within a larger framework that there was always that hint of, okay, well, you're not completely on your own.
Yes, 100%. And even I remember again, the early days where Sean, my first boss, when a deal wouldn't work out well, or when for whatever reason, like if we would sit down, he and I would sit down and we would just talk about it. It wasn't like, Jason, you're a fucking idiot. Why didn't this work? It was more like, hey, like, let's look at this deal. What could be improved? So again, the cognitive reframe of like negative to positive. What can we do next time to make this deal better? And so that education, and again, working with him and Darren Schwartz, which is my SVP of sales, like these guys gave us the tools and resources, but they also said, look, like we trust you enough to say, we're giving you a shot here. Go fucking make it happen. And that's where I was like, all right, challenge accepted, man. I'm in. And for 2+ years, it was just myself and my dear partner, Anna. And it was the two of us running the entire city of Kansas City, which may not sound like a whole lot, but I mean, it was a massive, incredible ride of, again, growth. And like you're talking about, Forbes called us the number one. We still are, per science, we're still the fastest growing company in history. And I attended a venture event last week, and the venture firm said, well, a lot of people like to poo-poo on Groupon because of how it ended. But to this day, Groupon is still the number one best venture return of all time, even including the AIs and all these other. So it was just a cool reminder to see like what we built. And again, to know like this was an awesome ride. But again, it's what did I really get is the experience and the relationships. I have friends that I still talk to. I resigned in 2014, 11 years ago. I had seen 5 or 6 Groupon alum over the past week.
Yeah. Wow.
So like we're still friendly. It's almost like we wear this badge of just like the first 125 employees are like, you know what? Like we as a team collectively, not the sales, not accounting, like just all of us together, like we really did something pretty badass.
Very cool. Congratulations on that. And as you're talking through this, of course, my mind is cycling on not traditional educational models, but educational models, I suppose, right? Because it's a little bit hard to say, here's the structure, go do it yourself. And I guess we'll help if we can. Right? That's a very loose structure. And to say that you could institutionalize that sounds a little bit difficult, right? I guess the only thing you could institutionalize about it is to say, we'll help. And I think that is part of what I'm pursuing here in various levels. I think entrepreneurship and startup culture is probably the extreme example, right? But in various levels, saying, well, let's make the connection so that this can happen. Interestingly enough, I had raised this before in some of our conversations. The question becomes, what if it was University of Chicago that introduced you to Groupon, and you had mentors at University of Chicago that said, no, you're still enrolled. We are your second line of support that's not within that company, that's an external resource and has an even larger network and even more insights, things like that, right?
Yeah. Because if you think about it, again, I'm a 24-year-old kid, a recent college grad, and it's like it's black or white. You either go to school and you do your PhD, or you don't and you leave and you go to the startup. There was no like, there was no hybrid model. And I think, and again, if there could be, and I think this is, part of the mission is like, how can we build that hybrid model? How can we have it to where, because again, I unknowingly got that. And again, I'm so fortunate, but because I started so early in the company, I was directly involved with leadership. And so I got that firsthand, like real world experience of business at the age of 24 at this company that again was growing. The growth was pure insanity. So to be around that, to learn from that, and then to take that knowledge and kind of use it and take it and put my spin on it, it really helped. And again, because we were so small and it was early, we were sharing best practices and it was a lot of learning and sharing what this works, this doesn't. So again, it would have been beautiful if I had some sort of transition where it's the University of Chicago is going to support you while you do this. And if it doesn't work, you can come back here. And if it does, you kind of, whatever. But again, I didn't, that option was not, and I believe still is not an option.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, I'm thinking of some content I found recently with Mark Tebby, who's over at University of Chicago. I actually recently went over there to view a little fireside chat, classroom chat, whatever you want to call it, lecture chat with lecture hall chat with one of the founders of Grubhub. And so that was great. And I met him, and then I've seen some of content from him explaining the Chicago ethos. And he's specifically said, I'm not going to quote him directly, but I'm paraphrasing. In some place like California, Palo Alto, Silicon Valley, if you have a failed startup, it's a badge of honor. You're almost more likely to be invested in if you've had a failed startup than if you had something that worked but is not so impressive. And what he said is that, at least when he said this, I forget what year, in Chicago, Midwest, if you have a failed startup, it's like the scarlet letter. It's like a stigma. And then people, okay, with failed startup, we're not going to invest in the next venture. This person failed, they're not going to succeed in the future. His stated goal was like, let's change that about the Midwest, right? Let's make Midwest a place where we celebrate failures as milestones on a journey towards success, learning opportunities, right? When we talk about education, you learn from the fact that something didn't work.
Dude, I'm getting geeked out if you don't mind, because what people have to realize is that if you start a company, if you work somewhere, if you're interviewing somewhere and you're building projects or whatever you're doing, if you're doing something, again, if the business fails, you can look at it like, oh my God, this business failed and I'm a loser and all these things. Or you can say, wow, how much did I learn through that process that's going to enable me and give me extra credit for whatever I do next? They don't look at it like extra credit. They look at it like I'm a failure. And again, and I'm sure you know this, I coach a lot of CEOs. I work with a lot of founders. Their business is so attached to their being, almost as if they are the business, right? So the business is thriving and the profits are good. They're happy. They're great. But if there was a problem with accounting or if the deal fell through, they're like in the dumps. And the reality is that we really need to separate ourselves from the humanistic part and everything else, because in order to be a badass CEO, a badass human, a badass employee, you have to be a badass human first. It all starts with human, because if you're not a badass, healthy, regulated human, you can't be a regulated CEO. You can't be a badass accountant or a badass mom or a badass dad. Like, you have to start with the human element. So again, reframing that failure of like, oh, I failed. It's like, no, you tried, you went out there, and you should be celebrated for going out there and trying, which most people, I think the saying is like, fear kills more businesses than the actual failure of the business. Like, the fear of starting a business kills the business more than if you were to move forward with the business. So yeah, again, the idea is like, it's all learning. Everything we're doing, regardless of whether or not we want to classify it as learning, every single day we're learning. And we also, one quick thing before I turn it over, we have to remember, Eathan, we're all grown-up children. We are adults, but we're still learning. We're still growing. We're still, just because we're 30, 40, 50 years old doesn't mean we're not exposing ourselves to new experiences, new education. We're still learning, just like my 5-year-old and my 3-year-old.
But we're not getting taller, so how could we be learning anything?
The viewers don't know, I'm a tall man. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, that is right. Yeah, you are tall. So yeah, clearly that's why you're tall. I mean, when you graduated, high school, or you left USC, I think you were what, 5'2" or something, and then all through, even today, you grew an inch last year, probably.
Just keep going. Just keep going.
That would be a great metaphor to see that. What if all of the most successful, it's just grown so giant,
just keep getting taller and taller. Oh my goodness. But again, you notice too, just notice, and again, I love pointing this out. Notice you said the word successful. And so what does that mean? In society likes to, and this was maybe my perception, but I believe the zeitgeist of our society, people use the word success as a nice way to say money. He's really successful, or she had a really successful year. Well, I know a lot of people that make millions and millions of dollars who would consider themselves very unsuccessful because they're unhappy with their relationships, they're obese, they're not mentally well, they're drinking a lot, whatever it is, right? So it's like, what is success? I also know people who work for themselves and make 60, 70 grand a year, and they live their life and they love it. And that to me is success. So I think success, the old outdated version of success should be replaced with it's not an objective term. Success is subjective to what you define as success.
Yeah.
And it's not, go ahead.
I think the term well-being keeps coming up for me. And I think when we think about training people to have a fulfilling career, a fulfilling life, to be productive in society, I think that's got to be an essential element. Whatever you're done with, whether there's a significant income there or not, is it enough income to keep you healthy and well and feeling like you have well-being? And we don't, and I think there's a little bit of a conundrum to solve, but I think it's addressable, is how do you balance having a feeling of well-being and pushing an edge, right? Because sometimes pushing an edge feels like, hey, this is uncomfortable. I don't know if I would describe this as well-being.
The first thing that comes in my heart, and this is something that my dear coach Michael taught me, was oftentimes fear is a reverse indicator. And what that means is if you are presented with something in life, and I don't mean like trying to hitchhike from New York to California on a bicycle right away. I mean, if there's something in your life that feels scary, but also there's some sense of gravitational, energetic pull towards that fear, our job is to actually run towards that fear because that's where the growth occurs, is right outside the door of the fear. So in order to get to where we want to go, we have to go and open that fear door. Many people will say, you know what, I don't want to open that door. I'll take it's the easy route, because the easy route is to stay safe and just do what you're doing and float by and whatever. The hard route is to go into that dangerous, kind of, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go all in, and I'm gonna go through that door, and we're gonna do this, and it's gonna be scary as shit. And just like the gym, it's not always pleasant when you come home and you have sore muscles. Like it's the same with it's the same. Like it's not going to be easy, but it's not supposed to be. If life is like a video game, imagine if there's the men and women out there that play games. Imagine if you get a game and you beat level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, and then you're on level 7 or level 6 or 7, and then you realize level 8 is as easy as level 2. You're going to go, this game fucking sucks. I want to be challenged. I want to have it. I want it to be hard. Like I beat the last level, which prepared me for this level. Why? So again, it's like we're constantly leveling up in life, whether it's business, relationships, again, you name it. There's constant level upgrading throughout our entire lives.
Yes. Yeah. This reminds me of a conversation I had with a guy in gaming. They do games like phone games, video games, and things. That's very successful.
Sure.
And we were talking about how people in gaming get contracted by like DARPA, the Department of Defense, because they've found some advanced concept that needs to be applied for very high impact situations. And along the lines of what you said, apparently in gaming, it's one of the holy grails, is just matching people across the globe within the game at the right levels to one another. Like if they're playing against each other, for example, in the same game. And matching is a huge issue that needs to be resolved, because if you get matched with someone who's too much better than you get discouraged in the game and you quit. You're just not going to keep on trying. If you get matched with someone who's just at a very basic level compared to what you're doing, you're also going to quit the game, like you said, because this is too easy. I figured it out. I'll move on to other things.
Right? It's boring. Yeah.
But if you match properly between two parties that are competing in the game, you can actually get sort of the magic ingredient where you're on that one where the person who's a little bit better gets to have the one win, and oh gosh, at least I'm winning sometimes, right? But also the person that loses can go, all right, I lost that one, but I'll get him next time, or I learned something from that particular interaction.
Yeah. And how can I use that interaction to get better next time, right? That's the whole goal, is the repeated cycle. How can I use this information, this data, to continue to get better? And it's a repeated cycle. So yeah, amen, brother.
I want to shift a little bit. This is a great conversation. We're rapidly running out of time. We both have a hard stop. So I want to cover a little bit just about the Chicago founder culture, early stage VC environment. At some point or another, either during or after Groupon, you got involved in this. And I want to kind of see like what you're seeing, why you got involved, what's manifested.
Yeah. So the first reason I got involved, my first angel investment was actually in ed tech, was a company called Packback. And at that time, they were trying to digitize college textbooks. And the reason I invested in that company is because I myself felt the same pain in 2003 or 2004, whatever, where you would go buy a textbook for $250 and then you would sell it back 10 weeks later for $50. So that was my first angel check. And again, I believed in not only for me, it's two people, it's two things. It's the product, but more importantly, the person, because there are a lot of businesses out there that have awesome profits and awesome revenues, and they don't have good leaders, healthy leaders. And so to me, Mike was the CEO at the time. I met Mike and like, I was like, this feels right. And so then I started just writing small checks to businesses that I believed, again, I'm not looking to me personally, like, would it be nice to get some sort of money? Sure. But like, I'm not necessarily investing in B2B AI SaaS software. I'm investing in products and services that I believe are going to help people's lives, like from a humanistic standpoint. So ed tech a lot. I actually did my first CPG deal with Evergreen Waffles, which is like a frozen waffle. They're in every Whole Foods. Again, healthier food for kids. So things that are passionate to me, those are the things I like to invest in. Even one of my last investments was you know how like when you have your laptop, there's the Apple has it where if you trip, the cord just kind of flips out,
Yeah,
like
the
you don't
magnetic.
trip on the cord. Right. So this company called TEGO, it adapts to any wall adapter and essentially turns any wall adapter and any plug into an Apple so no one can trip, no one can fall. It's very genius. So again, that means a lot to me. I'll never forget when I was 16, my grandma fell. She had half of her face bruised because she fell. And so if that could have been prevented, I don't want that to happen to my mom. I don't want that to happen to me. So again, investing in things that are meaningful to me, people and products.
And how long's it been? How many years have you been on this journey of investing and working with founders?
I've been doing some angel investing for probably close to 10 years, maybe. And yeah, like I said, it's not just always money. It's my time. It's my experience. It's like my energy. I want to help these people again, expedite where they want to go. And I want to help them avoid the mistakes that I, as a seasoned entrepreneur,
Mhm.
have seen from both sides because I raised money and I've started startups, but I've also done some venture work with New Stack Ventures here in Chicago. And so to be able to, again, I want to help. Like my entire mission here is to help and to teach. And I let the wins that I receive, they're an organic byproduct of the inputs, of my value, right? It's not about what do I get out of this? It's how can I give and let the rewards come as an organic byproduct.
Just a little bit more perspective before we jump off of that topic on the Chicago scene in particular. I know some of the things you invest
Yeah.
in are outside of Chicago, but maybe the opportunities came
Mhm.
through a group in Chicago.
Does it?
Um,
Mhm.
I don't know how familiar you are with other scenes, be it San Francisco or New York or Texas or whatever,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
give us, because the average person is not seeing this, right? You see it every
Sure.
day. What do you see
Right.
going on in the sort of founder
Sure.
VC
Well,
landscape in Chicago?
so one is Chicago is a heavily underrepresented tech hub. We need to continue to have founders that are in Chicago continue to back and continue to angel invest and help other Chicago founders. I believe that, as you mentioned earlier, like you have these coast companies, the New Yorks and the San Frans, which again, like I'm going to have to blanket statement them because I don't really have a choice, I guess. But like in the Midwest here, it's just not the same vibe. In San Fran, you can pull out a napkin, you write down what your idea is, and here's $10 million. So in Chicago, it's more like, let's build a relationship. And how can we help you not just by giving you money, but like, how can we actually help you? And to me, again, I don't know this, but it feels like the feeling is the Chicago ecosystem in general, they're a lot more hands on with their port codes than other areas of the country. And again, I think that goes back to just the Midwest culture. We're investing in good people with good hearts. They're not looking to make $10 billion on an exit and get rich and go live on some island. They're looking to do something meaningful. Um, and so, yeah, so I have invested in a couple of companies outside of Chicago, mainly through SPVs, through like Long Jump or what have you. But again, the idea here is like, what can we do? Not just write a check, like, because anyone can write a check. How can I specifically be of value to this company to help expedite their growth, not just through a check, but through my time, energy, and resource?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, and for whatever reason, I've been living here in Chicago, but I wasn't necessarily involved in the scene. I was on the coast. I was in Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, But yeah, everything that I've seen so far, it is as you described. There's a great deal of warmth and supportiveness. I've seen more people here in Chicago who are just kind of standing by, quietly by the side. They're like, they're just kind of at every event. And when you call them, they say, "What can I do? What do you need? How can I help you?" Oh,
Yeah.
okay, great. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not and again, I've been to a couple New York events. It's just so much more transactional in New York, where it's like, what can you do for me? How much money do you have? Like, who can you connect me to make me more money? Like, it's so transactional. Where again, even this event I went to last week, the New Stack had their annual event. It was like, these are just all good people. None of these people are here to be like vicious, fucking angry, money hungry. Like, yeah, would they like to make a return? Sure, but they're there for more than that. They're there for more than the money.
Hmm. Yeah. This maybe could transition a little bit into your sort of personal work or it's personal work, it's business work, right? And
Yeah.
I have other friends too, not many, right? It's a very special area that kind of have this thesis of, it's not business versus pleasure, it's, hey, I want to do business with people I like to do business with. I want to build these relationships with a person that I'm doing professional work with in the same way that I might build a relationship with a family member, right? Or a good friend.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on
Totally.
that and how that applies to how you work with people?
So can you just remind me, like, what's the basic question?
Basic question is talk about how you see the role of relationships in business and actually maybe having them be a little bit more than just business. You're a friend, you're developing friendships, you're
Yeah.
developing.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is again something to me that's not common on the coast. Like all the people, every single person, every single company that I've advised or I've invested in or worked with, they're what I would call in my circle. And what that means is just because you hired me 7 years ago as a consultant, if you need to call me or want to call me because you have a question, I'm here for you. It's not, again, it's not transactional. It is relationship. There's something called the 10-year rule. I don't know if you've heard of this, but what they say is that if you maintain a friendship, a relationship, a business partnership for 10 years, even if it's just every couple of months, how you doing, what's up, a phone call, whatever, the 10-year mark, if you stay connected with that individual for 10 years, I think it's like you have a 96% chance that person will be with you as friends for the rest of your lives. Something outrageous. So again, the idea is like, how can we cultivate that, and then continue to be there and support these people? I just think there's a lot of work to be done. Again, from Chicago, I'm born, bred in Chicago. I live in Northbrook. The Chicago tech needs a lot of. We're just underrepresented, and I think that hopefully in the next couple of years that's going to change. I think with the TechStars program coming back, and I think they're doing stuff with there's something else coming out. It's a new accelerator with some of the guys from Hyde Park Venture Partners. So again, what can we do to continue to get this going and to grow it? Because it's not, in my opinion, we should not. We want to be faster. We want to be more. We want to be quicker, and we're not, and we're underrepresented, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential and there's a lot of movement. And somebody also said this. I don't know if you agree. We'd have to dwell on it, but somebody says something like Chicago's got a chip on its shoulder. It does have a little bit of something to prove, which is a good thing, right? There's some motivation thing
Yeah,
to kind of come out
yeah,
ahead a little bit.
it does. Yeah, well, and you got to remember too, like there's so many hidden, overlooked founders that are again being passed by like Stanford dropouts, right? They're raising money, whatever. There are people in the Midwest and Iowa that are building really cool water saving techniques, and like they're just being overlooked because their venture is just like not interested because it's not B2B SaaS AI. So to be able to again identify people that are building meaningful products or services that don't just enhance business but improve and enhance life, that's what matters.
Mm.
Because my coach says the winner of life is not the one who dies with the most money. And I was like, that's really fucking awesome. because there's just so much, I think, and again, maybe it's skewed towards men. I don't know, but like more money and make more money and career. And like, then they're giving their family is the leftovers, which it's like, what's life for? Life is not for work and money. Life is to live, and work and money is a part of the pie, but it's not the whole thing. And I think if you zoom out and if we treat ourselves as the CEO of ourselves, if we treated ourselves as a business and we're the CEO of the business, what areas in our business need performance reviews? Because there are probably areas in everyone's life and everyone's business, their CEO, where they don't even want to go to that department, right? They're so focused on the money or whatever, and they're afraid to go to this department to have a performance review with themselves because of fear.
Mm. Yeah. I appreciate that perspective, and there's no shame in it. It happens to everybody. It happens with every business that
No,
departments that are lagging, but it
no.
is useful to recognize, to have the self-reflection. Yeah, that is a department I need to take a look at.
Yeah, yeah.
We have just a minute or two left, really, so it's gone by very quickly. I do want to make sure if there's any sort of words of wisdom you want to share, places you want to send people, telling people a little bit more about what you like to do
Sure.
professionally and how people can work with you.
Yeah. So you can just check me out on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way, is Jason Komosa. I'm sure my name will be on there. I have a website, jkomosa.com, Komosa. Words of wisdom would be to continue to trust your intuition. I tell everyone that, because the intuition, again, is the leading light and the leading guide to where we want to go. It's giving ourselves that extra credit in the future. And if we ignore it, which oftentimes, I can speak because I'm a man, the logical brain, do this, do these things because of this, but the intuition wise doesn't feel right. So if my one thing is follow your intuition.
I'm going to leave it right there. Follow your intuition. Thanks a lot, Jason.
Awesome.
Appreciate you
Thank
joining
you,
us.
man. Thank you so much.